Our tray has now been fully sanded. Everywhere has been hit with at least 220. I've used a random orbital sander to go over where the end piece and the side piece meet on these corners so that these are perfectly flush. I've done this on the top and the bottom. So everywhere has been hit with at least 220, and I've taken the time to clean off of the tray. I've sprayed off with compressed air to get any dust off the tray. All of this prep work is going to be really important before we apply any finish, because the finish is actually going to bring out any mistakes that we made. So it might look fine now, and then you add finish and you're like, I should have done that. But by then it'll be too late. If you're looking to add any stain to our tray, we also want to do that before we apply our polyurethane finish, just as a side note. It's also going to be really important that we removed any dried glue off of our tray. So from our glue up, there may be a little bit of glue residue left over that was squeezed out. It's really important that we sand that fully off, as the finish will not adhere to any glue, and it will also look a different color. So if there is any of that extra glue left over, you will see it, and once you start applying the finish, it's too late. You're stuck with it. So it's really important to not rush this process and do your due diligence and go over your whole tray, look over it again, blow off any dust off it, and because this is our last chance before we apply finish. So once we start, we're kind of locked into what we have. When we apply the polyurethane, which we're using, it's a water-based polyurethane finish, we're going to use this foam applicator brush and just dip just the tip of it in here. We have, this is labeled polyurethane. Dip just the tip, and we're going to go over our tray pretty quickly. And we're going to start with the hard to reach places. So for us, that's going to be the bottom, on the insides of the corners, around the leg area, all of the tricky spots. We're going to start there, and the least noticeable spots. And then we're going to work our way out. So you're going to do the edges of the tray, the bottom of the base, and then we are going to put it on its legs. And we are going to finish off by doing the outside, the top, and then the inside of the tray. You want to finish off in the place that you're going to see the most, just so you can make sure you do the neatest job and you have the best looking tray at the end. We're probably going to apply 2 to 3 coats of this polyurethane and do a very, very light sand in between so that the next coat can adhere to that. And make sure you're doing this in a really well lit environment. If you're doing it in the finishing room, make sure you can add an extra light in there, bring your own light, use your phone light, things like that. The light is really going to help you realize where you've hit and where you still need to hit. So again, this is another one of those processes similar to the glue up. You need to make sure you have everything on hand and that you're ready to go before you start applying finish, because you kind of don't want to stop in the middle of it. You definitely don't want to stop in the middle of a coat. That will ruin your product. So make sure you have the time in class to finish one full coat. And once you're done, make sure you rinse out your foam applicator brush in the sink. This is a water-based product, so you can use water to get it off of the brush. And then hang the brushes to dry. But again, make sure all of the poly is off the brush so we can reuse them again. I'll mention anything that comes to mind as I go through the process, but once you start, you'll get a better feel for it. The main thing is that we don't apply too much and that you're constantly dipping the brush, moving quickly, and removing any excess. You don't want a ton of polyurethane globbed on there. So here we go. So these hard to reach areas definitely take the most time. And it's important while you're doing them to keep looking around and get different angles because you might miss one spot. So again, keep looking different ways and just take your time. If you have any excess buildup on your tray, it might be useful to get a clean rag and just wipe that away. The legs and around the legs is definitely going to take the longest time to apply finish to. The rest should be pretty smooth and pretty quick. The end grain of the wood is going to soak up more finish, so be sure to put a bit extra on there and then wipe it off at the end. Now that my tray has a full coat on it, I'm going to go around with a pretty dry brush and try to remove any of the excess that is sitting on top of the wood. Now that I've gone over the tray and made sure that there's no drips or runs, I am going to place this in a safe area where there's going to be no dust or debris getting on it. And I'm going to let that dry. And I will do probably 2 more coats. In between coats, I'm going to do a light scuff sand with very, very fine sandpaper, either 220 or 320 around there. And then I'm going to apply another coat. The first coat is going to be the most difficult because the wood is going to absorb the most amount of finish. After that, it should run a little quicker. And that whole process took me probably close to 25 minutes. So if you don't have this amount of time, I'd say if you don't have at least 30 minutes left of class, don't start finishing. Just wait till the next class to start. Now I'll check back in after I've done a few more coats and we'll see how the project turned out.